In 2004, this was your first time working with Quentin Tarantino, playing Rocket in Kill Bill Volume 2. And since this episode is about Django Unchained, we will take a brief intermission right here.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see what you did
We'll take an
there.
intermission right there to talk about that relationship. So you've worked with Tarantino as an actor as well as a co-producer, and he has undoubted he like he's kind of up there with Sam Raimi. There's no doubt how much he loves film and just the whole process from beginning to end. What's it like working with somebody like that on set?
I hear Scorsese is a different version of that same cinephile movie geek, but it's infectious, is what it is, in the best possible way. I know infection right now is sort of a bad word, but it's infectious in the best possible way. Sam loves movies and he respects the history of movies. And one thing that he and I had in common is that we both dressed for work. A lot of people wear sweatpants to work in our field, and especially because somebody else is going to give you clothing and somebody else is going to do your hair and makeup. And so why would you bother?
Mm-hmm.
Why not just wear something that you can sit in a makeup chair in? And I'm always aware that I wear something where I can get it over my head without disturbing hair and makeup. But I dress for work. I wear clothes as if I'm going to work. And Sam did that as well. He wore every single day, he wore a black jacket over whatever else he was wearing. And so he looked like a reservoir dog pretty much every day at work. And I commented on it at some point, and I was wearing a dress, as I'm saying to him, I keep noticing you dressing for work. And he talked to me about the glamour of Hollywood and how the industry was always seen as a place for glamour, and that we treat it like a gym locker, and that he just didn't want to do that. And I that was exactly how I felt. This was a profession I had worked super hard to be a part of, and why would I wear gym clothes to my I'm not a gymnast. So,
Awesome. That is
yeah,
awesome.
it made sense to me to wear actor clothes to my acting work, and actor clothes are that you look nice.
In 2008, you guys co-produced the film Hell Ride, which you also starred in, shared a scene with Michael Madsen again. And also Larry Bishop also acted in this, Kill Bill Volume 2. So it seems like there's an organic working relationship there. Can you talk to us about that? Because it kind of seemed like this came together with people who had all been, intermingling, who had 7 degrees of separation, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think it's funny that you spotted that from the couch. I don't know how you figured that out from your vantage, but you're absolutely right. Score. You're absolutely 100% right. I was over at Quentin's house and we were talking about biker movies, and I said something about, or maybe he said something about Larry. I don't know who brought up Larry first, but somebody mentioned Larry Bishop, who is the son of Joey Bishop from the Rat Pack. And Larry Bishop had a long career as a biker back in the 60s and 70s in biker movies when they were very hot. And then he went on to play a biker type character on things like Laverne and Shirley. He's the one that hangs them on the hooks, in the open credits. Anyway, so Larry, Quentin or one of us brings up Larry, and I say something about I know him, and Quentin goes, "You know Larry Bishop?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Wait, like you know him, like, or do you like know him?" And I was like, "No, I know him. I mean, I would call him right now." And he's like, "You could call Larry right now?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay." So I called him, and I had, it was before we were all cell phone people. So I just called him because I knew his number, and I dialed it on a phone and said, "Hey, I'm calling from Quentin's house and we're talking about you," which came, of course, as glorious news to a guy who hadn't worked in a while. And I said, "Look, he's a huge fan of your biker movies. He wants to do a biker movie at the house, and we'll all watch it together." So Quentin set up in his movie theater that he would show I think it was a double or a triple feature of biker movies. And so Larry and I show up, and he has replaced all the posters in his theater with Larry's movies.
Nice.
And yeah, and you know, you get to grab whatever candy and popcorn you want or whatever, and then we settle in. He has made a trailer reel of, I don't know, maybe at 6 or 8 trailers of movies that Larry was in.
That's
And then we sit and watch a couple of his movies. And when it was done, we sat and talked. And now at this point, it's like 4 or 5 in the morning. And we sat and talked about biker movies. And other than Easy Rider, which is not even considered traditionally a biker movie, I hadn't really understood the genre. And so we talked a lot about it. And finally, at some point, I'm there at the moment that Quentin looks at Larry and says, Larry, it is your destiny. It is your destiny to write, direct, and star in the greatest biker movie of all time. So I am not going to say that we made that movie, but that's what we were trying to do.
Talk about pressure. I'm like
That is a hell of a story.
yeah.
We cast Michael Madsen that night. And so, yeah. So that night it was me, Larry, and Michael were the original cast. And Larry and I went to work on the screenplay. And you know, that's it.
It's so cool that things like that still happen because it's so easy to be cynical about Hollywood that like,
Well, it did take 7 years though.
yeah.
There you go.
But the fact that it just kind of organically was decided upon and there wasn't like, let me call my people and let me talk to, it was like inspired in the moment and came from that. I think that's very neat.
Well, it does become that, the my people, your people thing, and that's what takes the 7 years. So yeah, it took 7 years to get it made for a variety of reasons that include, you know, everything from the professional, like you're saying, my people, your people, conversations, lawyers, yada, 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 to things like a marriage blew up in the middle of it that was tangential to had nothing to do with our movie. It wasn't anybody involved in our movie, but that marriage blowing up involved one of our players having to stay on a project for a year longer than they should have because of the marriage going, you know, so like many things went sideways. Many things go sideways on every project you ever get involved in. And this one, you know, everybody, every time you make a movie, they think you should have made a movie about the making of that movie. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even on an independent level, where you know we make small feature films here from Florida, and it's anxiety ridden going into it, especially when you have like a larger cast and crew. There's so many revolving lives that you have to rely on. Right, please for the like. I have an old man that is a reoccurring character in my movies, and every time I literally tell him like, just don't die for the next 6 months, please.
So I was producing a movie. That I haven't shared anything about because I was producing this movie. I was very excited about the project. It had a lot of really A-list amazing people involved. We were toting along, boop, 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 having it. It's going to happen. And I was just signing contracts and my partner died.
Whoa.
So
Yeah, it's like
it happens.
It's like, golly, wow.
it was his script, his movie, his project, and I was not a co-producer. I was the executive. You know, we were making this movie together. And he died.
He had to go. What a rascal!
Wow, man, that is wow. Okay.
So that's when you're deep into the shit happens world, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed when I was looking at the IMDb, it kind of seems like you and Quentin Tarantino make a habit out of working together every time there's a presidential election. In 2012, you're Laura Lee Candy Fitzwillie.
There you go.
Thank you. And Django Unchained sharing the screen with a plethora of Hollywood heavy hitters. How long were you on set for on that, and what was that experience like?
I was on that movie for about 5 months. And it was the longest that I've been on a movie. I had the script way in advance because Quentin used to send me all of his scripts to read, just to give notes and stuff. Yeah. And so when I got the script initially, I thought that's what it was. I was here in New Orleans, hadn't seen Quentin in a while. I get the script. I mean, we had talked, but I get this script and I just thought he wanted me to read it and give him notes. So I'm reading it and writing all over it and whatever. And it was a 200 plus page script. And so I am deep in, I'm like on page 90 when I read Laura Lee Candy Fitzwilly, a 40-ish, attractive, strawberry blonde. I'm like, whoa, what? And so I backed up. 40-ish, attractive, strawberry blonde, Southern belle. Wait, what? And so that's when I and my name is very similar to the name. And I'm Laura Lynn Cayouette. That's Laura Lee Candy Fitzwilly. So I just was like, wow, is this for me? So I didn't know if it was for me, but I had that script at least a year before we shot. And then I went through the audition process and got the part. And then I had about 5 months between the time I was given the part and the time that I had to show up for work. No, I'm sorry, 3 months. 3 months before I got the part, something like that. So I had enough time to work on it for real, like I used to when I was in theater. I got to develop the character. I got to write a diary for her and create a photo album for her and, like a scrapbook. And I got to borrow a hoop skirt from the wardrobe department and walk around looking like an asshole in my city, with my friend Dana, who plays Cora in the movie. And Dana and I are walking in. I'm wearing my hoop skirt. She's wearing petticoats. I'm wearing a Saints t-shirt with my hoop skirt, She's like wearing regular clothes and this petticoats. And we're walking along with her holding an umbrella over me as tour buses are passing. I'm like, I don't even want to know what they're making of this. I can't even imagine what they're thinking of. There goes the white chick in the hoop skirt with the Saints shirt.
Yeah, in Los Angeles,
If no one even blink an eye,
no
wouldn't
one
even blink
no
an
one
eye.
even blinked an eye in LA, but yeah. What the hell?
It was a little odd, but I got to really prepare, like really, really prepare. And so that was months. And then I got to shoot for 5 months and be her for 5 months. And so it was probably the most grueling experience of my entire career, but certainly the most rich and gave me an opportunity to do what I do well.
Yeah.
And you did
yes.
that you did do well. Yes, you did. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, you're sitting at a table with Jamie Foxx, Christoph Waltz, Leonardo DiCaprio, Samuel L. Jackson, and Kerry Washington. Now, if you were to write a film, and of course you were in the lead, and you needed a co-lead out of those people at that table, who would you choose as an actor yourself that you think you had the most chemistry with? Who would you choose?
Well, first of all, I think this is a kind of a cruel question because then I have to pick a favorite kind of thing. And you're talking about an entire table of Academy Award winners and nominees, BAFTA winners, Emmy winners, Golden Globe winners. I mean,
The egos have a long way to fall right now.
They're all tuning in now.
They're all people who, in their own way, are amazing. And like Sam Jackson is the biggest box office of the entire history of cinema. Mm-hmm. Kerry Washington had a brand new TV show come out while we were shooting called Scandal, So like there was all kinds of stuff. These are amazing people who are truly great at what they do. But I'm going to give you two answers: the one that you'd expect, and then the one that you weren't ready for. I pick Leo because I really, really enjoyed working with him. I had actually known him when he was a 16-year-old because he was represented by an agency where I had a summer job as a receptionist. And so he and his dad used to come in and wait in the waiting room, and I would hang out in the waiting room because that's where I worked. So so they would hang out with me in the waiting room. And so I remember him as a kid, and that really helped me with my preparation to play his older sister. And when he showed up right away, but certainly as the days wore on, and working on Quentin's movies, you have the longest days in the history of the world. But working with him as the days wore on, it became very clear to me that he was like Shirley MacLaine. He never let 1 millisecond of time go empty.
Mm-hmm.
He and Shirley MacLaine are the two only actors I've ever been so swept away by watching them live when we're supposed to be filming that
Mm-hmm.
I forgot we were filming. And I mean, at some point on Django, I'm at that table and I hear Quentin's voice going, Laura, Laura, you gonna say your line? And I was like, oh, right, I'm in this movie, because I just got so,
That's incredible.
he was captivating. But the answer you're not ready for is that you left somebody off that table, Dennis Christopher.
Oh yeah,
He is at the table. Oh my.
Who I have been so blown away by since I saw him as a kid in the Breaking Away movie. And
Mhm.
I will tell you that of everybody I was working with, he was the one that I was like, I can't believe I get to work with Dennis Christopher. I couldn't wait to work with him. And we've remained friends to this day. But I had met him one time at the Apple store, and I'm not a fan person. I don't do the fan thing, but I like literally interrupted his business at the Genius Bar to say, pay attention to the fact that I'm madly in love with your work. You know, like I had to tell him, I had to say, you're amazing. I'm such a fan.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Dennis Christopher, I've been a fan of since I was a kid and saw him in Breaking Away. I just thought he was a genius in that movie. He was so
Mhm.
good. And so, and he's like me. He's method trained. He's classically trained. He's theater trained. He's Shakespearean trained. He's hyper trained like me, and trained in many of the same ways that I was trained. And he was the only other person at the table that was trained that way.
Speaking of method trained, I know you leave the scene shortly before this happens, but what can you tell us about? I've heard that when Leonardo DiCaprio cut his hand, he kept performing. Can you speak on that at all?
Well, that's all true. Everything you heard is true. I was working that day, but I left right before that happened. And because, like I said, these days were super long.
Mhm.
And I spent them in a corset. So
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
a lot, with 6 pounds of hair on my head. And, it was a lot. I iced myself more in the time that I worked on that movie than in my entire career doing gymnastics and volleyball. So I got a call saying, "Oh my God, you're not gonna believe what just happened." And so somebody called me from the set and told me um, the entire story. But I had already been watching the scene before I left, so I knew exactly which scene they were working on, and exactly he's captivating. So I stayed and watched like 3 or 4 takes before I went home. But we shot that scene for like 3 weeks. You couldn't sit and watch all of it, like there's just too
Yeah.
much. So at some point you had to say, an embarrassment of riches, I'm going home. So so I went home and I get this call saying, oh my God, you're not gonna believe what happened. And they describe pretty much what you see on the screen, which is that he had been slamming his hand on the table, and each time he slammed it, it was making this little cocktail glass jump and move a little teeny tiny bit. And so at some point he slammed his hands down and it had moved under where he put his hand. And so he smashed it, and it cut his hand, and I believe was it 12 stitches, 16 stitches?
Oh,
It was a
wow.
lot of stitches.
I assumed that it was like chalked up a little bit for like it might have been like a scratch or a paper cut or
Oh
something
no.
like that, but they to
Oh
make the
no.
story that's crazy. And he kept going.
Lesser men and women would have certainly just fainted and been done. Okay. I mean,
Christina.
like he gashed his hand. He gashed his hand and finished the scene.
Spoiler alert, you go out in, I mean, this is amazing. I mean, like, it's probably one of the top 10 get your ass out of here scenes in a film ever. You go out in style in Django Unchained, literally blasted out out of frame by the title character played by Jamie Foxx. So let me ask you this. We like to teach people here at TTFT, you're a teacher, and there's practical effects and there's special effects. This seemed like a practical effect, but tell us, how was that shot pulled off?
Well, Quentin, as far as I know, has never done a special effect. He only does practical effects. He does in camera work, and I like that. And I think most of us old schoolers do like that. Um, it was the way they would have done it in 1920. It was I had a rig.
Just a horse and a rope.
We're going
Go.
3.
Yeah.
3, 2, pull her.
It was no, it's like a cartoon. It's like Wile E. Coyote. I have a rig on under my, my uniform, my costume. I have a rig on that has a hook on the back, and the hook comes through the back of the dress and is got a hook to a rope, and the rope goes up over a pulley and back to a man on a ladder.
Oh my gosh. Movie magic, love.
Yeah.
How many times did you have to do that? Please tell me it was not more than 2 or 3 times. How many
They
times?
spent 3 weeks pulling her.
No, I did it 4 times the first day.
Oh wow. Okay.
Then 2 days later, when I was good and sore, they told me I had to do it 2 more times.
And then they wound up telling you, we used the first one.
Oh, I am sure they used from the first. I am 100% sure of that. I was when we were shooting the second day. I already knew this is showbiz, man. Just suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah.
Like just do the thing. Just do the do. And I also heard it was in the top 3 favorite moments of the film globally. And there are very few things that we agree on as a globe, and especially when it comes to humor and violence. And yet,
Right.
globally, it was in the top 3 moments, whether you were in China or Iran or wherever you watched it. So that's pretty exciting.
How does that make you feel that like people love watching you get shot to smithereens? Like that's my favorite part when
When they yank her ass up out of there. Yeah.
is it a compliment or
I'm going to tell you, my brother is the one that put this in context for me when I did Kill Bill. When I did Kill Bill, I originally had a part that was about 15 pages, and it shot in China, and I didn't get to do it. And so I ended up with the part that you see where I play Rocket, and I don't die. And in the original part that I had, I would die vaingloriously on scene. And so when my brother saw Kill Bill Volume 2, he's a little brother, so he's designed to annoy me and pick on me. And I'm designed to annoy him and pick on him. And so he saw the movie and was like, yeah, it was good. But you're nobody till you die in a Tarantino movie. So I feel like that the second that my death became like a big dang deal, that made me a big dang deal,
what's your favorite memory from that set?
As you can imagine, with so much time being put into it, I have literally hundreds of favorite memories of that set, including sitting around with all the background people and all, for hours a day and just shooting the shit with the locals and all that. I have a lot of really fun movie memories and a lot of memories that are just about being in my own neighborhood, working with my own neighbors. I would say the thing that stands out as unique to Quentin and working with Quentin is that between every take, not between every take, but pretty much between setups, he will play music. The sound guy will play music, and lots of genres. Just like Quentin is interested in a lot of movies, he's also interested in a lot of music. You probably can tell that from his soundtracks. Mm-hmm. And so there's always a lot of music going on, and you never know what the next song is going to be. And as I mentioned, our days were very, very long. And so we would do things to entertain ourselves and each other. And all of us are born entertainers. So I remember the day we were doing the table scene and it was going really long. And at some point they put on Bobby Brown's My Prerogative, and Jamie got up and, the balcony that went around Candyland?
Yeah.
And inside? Not the outside one, but the one on the inside. So he's dancing up on that balcony, and the girls all knew the video. So they're all doing the right dance in unison as Jamie, who is a professional singer, is singing the song. That was fun to watch. But of the dancing, singing, so the answer is dancing, singing. But of the dancing and singing, my favorite dancing, singing moment is that Sam Jackson it's the night that we're filming the funeral scene, coming back from the funeral. And so it's the middle of the night. It's, I don't know, 3, 4 in the morning. And they had already blown up Candyland. And so we're only going to be able to film in one direction because we can't show Candyland because it's already been blown up, and it actually 2 days later was still smoking. So there was a pyrotechnic issue, but but anyway, so the Antebellum Mansion is in the background, smoking and blown up, and Sam Jackson is dressed in his velvets. He had those beautiful dress velvets because we're coming from the funeral. And the song that is played is Thriller. And Sam just starts doing the entire Thriller dance.
Oh, wow.
And with the background of the smoking Antebellum Mansion. And I was like, John Landis never had it so good. Like, this is.
Yeah. Oh, man.
There was like maybe 20 of us in the whole world that got to see it.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that may answer the question, but you let us know. I was going to say, before we move on, finally, is there anything else you'd like to share about the film that fans of the film may not know, or just moments that they never would have saw it? I think you gave us one, but is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, I'll tell you something that y'all would never know, because why would you, is that this was a wonderful opportunity for all of us, and especially those of us who were the Southern locals, for us to dig into our own heritage and have really long, deep conversations about our different versions of our heritage. I am the descendant of slave owners, and it's possible I'm also the descendant of slaves. And then many of the people that I was working with were certainly the descendants of slaves and the descendants of free people of color. And it gave us all this opportunity to look at our own history and our own family legacies and have open, grown-up discussions about all of it in the present tense, given the context of that we're all sitting around in corsets, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, and that was really intense and important and meaningful. And I think the whole world might be better if we just would talk about the things that we don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been amazing to be
That's
in that
cool
dialogue.
that it had conversation going behind the scenes.
Why don't you subscribe? It'll last longer.